Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We'll take a few moments to allow everyone to settle in before we officially begin the webinar. Our technical team will present the program for today's webinar along with the videos from PAASE and our co-organizers, Central Mindanao University and the Institute of Chemistry of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, before we officially start.
Okay, good morning, everyone. It looks like we have a number of virtual attendees joining us today. So we have participants from, of course, our partner university, Central Mindanao University, from the Institute of Chemistry, College of Arts and Sciences, from UP Los Baños, from UP Diliman. Also, we have people from EVSU. Wow, welcome. Also, we have from Ohio State University. We also have people from DepEd, from the OST. All right, so we have participants from various institutions, of course, including UP Los Baños, UP Diliman, CMU, and many others. Thank you all for making time to be with us here today. So before we begin, let's just go over a few webinar etiquettes, some reminders to ensure a smooth and productive session. So please keep your microphones muted when not speaking to minimize background noise, and feel free to use the chat box for questions and comments, if any, and our team will address them during the Q&A session. If ever you experience technical issues, kindly try refreshing your connection or reach out to our support team for assistance. And lastly, let's all be respectful and engaged throughout the discussion. We value your insights and participation in today's event. And with that, let's get started. Miss Ellen.
Sorry, I forgot. Yes, good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to the PAASE Fireside Chat for the Global Women's Breakfast 2026. Today, we come together under the theme Many Voices, One Science, a reminder that science is strengthened when diverse perspectives, experiences, and disciplines come together toward a shared purpose. I am Ellen Pandan, one of your hosts for this year's GWB.
And I am Bethel Rezaga from the Institute of Chemistry, College of Arts and Sciences, UP Los Baños. And we are delighted to welcome scientists, educators, students, and professionals joining us today via Zoom and through the PAASE Facebook Live. Hello. Thank you for choosing to spend your morning with us in celebration of women in science. Again, before we proceed, I would kindly request our Zoom participants to keep their microphones muted throughout the program. And for our viewers in Facebook Live, you may share your greetings and questions in the comment section.
So, this event is made possible through the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering in collaboration with our partner academic institutions, Central Mindanao University and Institute of Chemistry of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. We thank our organizers and partners for their continued support and in advancing scientific collaboration and empowering women in STEM.
Today's event is part of a global initiative taking place simultaneously worldwide, bringing together people from different disciplines, institutions, and backgrounds to support and empower women in science.
And the purpose of this Global Women's Breakfast is simple but powerful: to build networks, foster inclusion, and strengthen opportunities for women and girls in science. This event creates a space for conversation, mentorship, and connection, whether you're a student, early career researcher, educator, industry professional, or longtime leader in the field. It's about sharing experiences, learning from one another, and recognizing that scientific progress is strongest when everyone has a seat at the table. Let's watch this GWB 2026 video.
Welcome to the IUPAC 2026 Global Women's Breakfast, celebrating many voices, one science.
Wherever you are today, thank you for adding your voice in support of this global community. We come together on this day to build new connections and strengthen existing bonds across disciplines and across genders.
We come together to listen, to mentor, and to build a more equitable global community for science.
We have many voices, one science. Every voice should be heard, allowing the best science to emerge and creating a sustainable future.
Hello everyone, happy IUPAC Global Women's Breakfast 2026. We are Women in Chemistry, Cross River State, Nigeria. Our theme this year is Many Voices, One Science. And in our local language, it is
Muitas vozes, uma ciência.
众生和鸣，科学同享。
Una vasova jedna znanost.
Πολλές φωνές, μία επιστήμη.
Sokféle hang, egy tudomány.
Namaste from India, Swanadeep Vigyanik.
صداهای بسیار، یک علم.
Motemochi, una scienza.
多元声音，同一科学。
Banyak suara, sikit sains.
बेशुमार आवाजें, एक साइंस।
Muchas voces y una ciencia.
विविध हाडी एक विद्यावा
多元声音，共创科学。
หลากหลายเสียงหนึ่งวิทยาศาสตร์
اختلاف الأصوات واللهجات والأفكار بس في النهاية العلم واحد.
Many voices, one science.
答えてこうはを手に入れいくふなあい。てみろま、てみろパゴ、てみろフェロ。
العلم يجمعنا مهما اختلفت الأصوات.
Wiele głosów.
Jedna nauka.
Veel stemmen.
Jed wetenschap. En was we aan meningi.
En ja, isanzi.
Many voices, one science.
Mauleo, ho'okahi, no epikema.
Muchas voces, una ciencia. Saludos desde México.
IUPAC hopes that you are enjoying your breakfast event today, wherever you are in the world. Make a connection across the table and across the globe. Take a moment to meet somebody new, share your story, be an ally, and raise your voice in support of science. Make an impact.
Join the conversation online. Connect with each other on social channels using hashtag GWB2026.
IUPAC thanks all event organisers for their hard work and dedication and everybody who is participating today.
We are also grateful to our sponsors for their wonderful support. American Chemical Society, Bayer, Royal Society of Chemistry, the Groote Brill, Royal Australian Chemical Institute.
Be sure to mark your calendars now for GWB 2027, happening on February 16, 2027.
Have fun today and enjoy your breakfast.
Today's gathering is part of something truly global. Through the IUPAC's Global Women's Breakfast, 449 events across 78 countries are happening in support of the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Over the past 7 years, nearly 2,500 Global Women's Breakfast events have brought together participants from 100 countries, all working to build a worldwide network that breaks down barriers to gender equality in science. We're truly happy that you're here and taking part in this meaningful global event. Now, to formally start this program, we are honored to have a representative of the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering to deliver the welcome remarks. May we now call on Maria Margaret O. Peña, 2026 President of the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering.
Hello, good morning, everybody in the Philippines, and good evening to those who are here in the United States. I would like to welcome everybody to this event that we have prepared so much for, the Global Women's Breakfast of 2026, with the theme Many Voices, One Science. As you have already heard from the introduction, the goal of this event is to promote equity, particularly promote science among women and girls, so that we can have a seat at the table. And as you can see from the guests that we have in here, there are so many talented women in science that actually lead the way. And many of them are also in PAASE. They are actually members of our, they have been past presidents of PAASE. They have been on our board. They have been the top awardees of PAASE. And also in the institutions that we have partnered with at CMU and the UPLB Institute of Chemistry. So for many years, this has been started by our president, Dr. Gladys Completo. Actually, a few years ago, I also was a guest on this event. It was the first time that I learned of this event. And since then, we have done this every year. And every year, there are always women that we look up to and women that we can serve as role models in science that we can emulate. And so tonight, we have speakers who represent this. Dr. Diana Aga, who is a member of our board of directors, and Dr. Felicitas Lacbawan and Dr. Mylene M. And they will share their experience in science with the hope of inspiring many to follow in their footsteps and realize that everybody, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, has a voice and can achieve it if you have the dreams to go to. So tonight, let's welcome our speakers. Let's welcome all of our guests, and I hope that there will be great participation among everybody. The goal is for you to speak up at the end, to talk to our speakers, to talk to our co-scientists in science, and learn from each other. And so I hope that this will be a very big event. We are many voices, there is one science, but you'll know that there are many areas of science that you can pursue. So welcome everybody, and let's all share our experiences together and learn from each other and move forward and move science forward. Good evening.
Thank you very much for that meaningful message and for setting the tone for today's conversation.
Yes. So, this GWB is a worldwide initiative that brings together women and allies in science to build networks, share experiences, and foster collaboration across borders and disciplines. This fireside chat reflects that the spirit by bringing together accomplished women leaders whose careers span from chemistry, genomics, medicine, mathematics, and academic leadership. So, our discussion this morning will focus on their career journeys, the challenges and opportunities women in science face, and their role in leadership and mentorship in shaping inclusive scientific communities. Ma'am
May I
Bethel?
now request Dr. Gladys Cherise J. Completo, former PAASE president and currently the director of the Institute of Chemistry, College of Arts and Sciences, UP Los Baños, to introduce our first distinguished speaker for today.
Parang hindi pa po nakabalik si Ma'am Gladys, Ma'am Bethel. Yeah, we have to introduce Dr. Aga.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll introduce Dr. Aga. So Dr. Diana Aga is a graduate from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, our very own, with a bachelor's degree in agricultural chemistry and a PhD in environmental and analytical chemistry from the University of Kansas, USA, and trained as a postdoctoral fellow at the Swiss Federal Institute of Aquatic Science and Technology in Switzerland. Currently, she is a University Distinguished Professor at the University of Buffalo, the State University of New York, since 2002. She's been a faculty since 2002. She also serves as the director of the Research and Education in Energy, Environment, and Water Institute, a university-wide multidisciplinary research and education institute that addresses complex issues related to energy, environment, and water. She is bagged with honors and awards, such as being named as an American Chemical Society Fellow and receiving the Alexander Humboldt Award, Fulbright Research Fellowship, National Science Foundation Career Award, and being a finalist for the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Science, Mathematics, and Engineering Mentoring. Please help me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Diana Aga.
Good evening. Oh no, good morning, everyone. Hope you can hear me. I want to share with you some slides, and thank you for inviting me to share breakfast with you. Actually, tomorrow we're also celebrating the Global Women's Breakfast here at the University at Buffalo. So when Marge invited me to share my experiences here, I was thinking of a good title. And so I have this title that resonates with the theme of the Global Breakfast, which is, I put here, one hat, one goal. And I'm going to change your impression, or all the things that you have been advised before, I'm going to change it to a different advice. How to live an unbalanced life happily ever after, right? So typically everyone thinks that if you have a balanced life, people ask me, how do you balance life, work and life, work in personal life? And I say you don't, okay? So you don't need to balance it, but you still can be successful and be happy. So it might be better if I can share with you my slides. So I'm gonna share that. Hopefully, hold on. Okay, you can see my slide, Marge? Okay. All right, so like I mentioned, I will change my my advice for you. It's not to balance personal life with work, but how to live it and enjoy what you have. Okay, so I'll start by reminding you this song. You probably heard this. It's a very old song, but most of you are young, so maybe you haven't heard this. But this is a famous song that I used to, my mother used to sing it with me, and it's one of those, like, okay, I wish I could sing, but so I'm not gonna sing. But it's one of those, when I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, "What will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich?" And here's what she said to me. Okay, let's see. It goes with, que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see, que sera, sera. Okay? What will be, will be. And it means, really, bahala na. But it always makes me think, why most of us in the Philippines emphasize richness and beauty, right? So I'm going to go back to these words. Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Why can't it be, will I be a scientist? Will I be a mentor? Will I be a global citizen? Right? So that's what I'm going to share with you. So I grew up from a poor family in Sipocot, Camarines Sur, so it's near Naga. This was my first house. I'm a daughter of an elementary school teacher. Both of them were elementary school teachers. So I strive to have a better life. This is not my house. So I don't live here. I did not become rich. Okay. I'm Diana, but I'm not this Diana. So I did not become pretty. Close enough, though. You can say, well, maybe. I'm not as powerful as a wonderful woman, but I'm a mother, I'm a mentor, and I'm a global citizen. I'm not a super mom. I'm just a simple, loving mom. So I want to say that work and family are not mutually exclusive. I've over the years, when my daughter was young, she's here, I've always mixed family and work. So these were all my students. Some of the professors there might recognize Elmer and Dawn. They were also graduates from UPLB. These were my first set of PhD students back in 2002. You will see as I grow, as Renee grows older, Renee is my daughter, she's always been included in my meetings, including sampling. So I'm an environmental chemist. So I go collect samples. I've actually tried to collaborate. I continue to collaborate with Philippines. So this is Laguna Lake back in 2015, I think. And that's my daughter. We were collecting water samples from Laguna Lake. So I've always taken her with me because I do not separate work and personal life. In some activities like rallies and I bring her with me when I have these rallies to promote science. In ACS meeting, American Chemical Society, so you can see over the years, in these pictures, she's a teenager, and I brought her, I bring her with me. I still bring her with me. If now she's graduated in college, but so she comes less and less. But I've never really wanted to separate work and personal life. So forget about those advice that say you should not mix business with pleasure. I would say you should, because otherwise you'll never have the time to have pleasure. If you always have pleasure, you will not have a successful work. So do it. Don't. So this was in 2016. He's also Filipino, my student here. So I take her with me anytime I can during conferences. So I said I'm a mother. I am also a mentor. I've mentored so many students. Up to now, I have graduated PhD, about 52 PhD students. I've also mentored undergraduate students in high school. So here are some of the pictures. And in my group, there's always Filipino students because I recruit students from the Philippines. So you might see here Randolph, Grace. Some of you might know them, but every year I always have a Filipino student. So I graduated in 1988, so I'm not old, in Los Baños. Many of the classmates I've graduated with are here also in the US, but some of them have already gone back. I graduated in 1995 in Kansas with two advisors, and that gave me a broader experience. So one is a geologist and one is an analytical chemist. And I think for some of you who are thinking about PhD grad school, it's always good to have more mentors, right? So I actually benefited from having two mentors. So you can see here I'm still very young. In 2002, I joined the faculty of the university at Buffalo, and you can see I was the only female faculty in the analytical division. And in the whole department, I am the third female faculty. When I arrived here, there's only one in organic chemistry. And then I was hired and another woman was hired. So at this year, 2002, there were 3 female faculty out of 40 total faculty. The good thing, though, is all of my colleagues were very supportive of me. They all mentored me. And now, today, at this very moment, all these 4 faculty have retired. So it's just me and this professor, Troy Wood, who are left. And so now we are the most senior in the analytical division. So my work here is focused on environmental chemistry. I'm an analytical chemist who is developing state-of-the-art methodologies to look at organic pollutants that are trace levels from the environment that affect us, our health, our food, our water. And I'm really lucky that my work is not only in the lab, but we actually go out and collect samples. So I'll show you some pictures later. Like I mentioned, I collected samples from Laguna Lake. So we look at their occurrence, their toxicity. And so my work is really broad and highly applicable to all kinds of disciplines, including engineering. So I work a lot with engineers on how to treat them. I work with agricultural engineers because a lot of these chemicals are used in agriculture, like pesticides and so on. So here you will see, this is an old picture before COVID in 2019. These are all the Filipino students that were students here during that time. Not all of them were in my group. Only in this picture, Grace and Isai, and now Judith is actually a scientist in my group, a senior scientist. She graduated. But these are all the Filipino during that time. There has been many Filipinos who have gone here. Today, there are, let's see, JM, Tyrone, Lisel, Elise, and Judith. They are all from the Philippines, University of the Philippines and Los Baños and Diliman. But there are also other Filipino students who are at the university who are working with different professors. They love the students from the Philippines. They are well disciplined. They're very humble, and they speak English. Everything it's like they all love having Filipino students. So we are very proud to be trained at UPLB, at UP. We have great training. I'll share with you a little bit about some of the work that I have collaborated with in the Philippines. So back in 2011, I spent a few months in Ateneo de Manila as a Fulbright scholar, where I studied pollution in the dust, air pollution. So these are some of the Filipino kids that are exposed to air pollution in Manila. So these chemicals are found everywhere, from your cell phone, from your carpets, from your cars, and they are carcinogenic. They're endocrine disruptors. So they are also found in fish. They bioaccumulate in fish. They bioaccumulate in our body when we eat fish, and they are transferred to kids when they are breastfed. And in the Philippines, even elementary school kids, you can see here, are still being breastfed. So the pollutants that the mothers accumulate are transferred to kids, and they are affecting their neurodevelopment. So Doris is a faculty at the Ateneo that I collaborated with. I collected some of these air samples, and we brought this in the US and analyzed them. I also hosted these two students. They were master students in Ateneo, and they came here in my lab at the US to analyze some of the fish samples. And it was a productive collaborations. We were able to publish a paper on the occurrence of PBDE, so polybrominated diphenyls, in the Philippines in fish. And so the co-authors here, Doris Montecastro and Denise Navarro, are from the Philippines. Moving on, later on, I have another project on antimicrobial resistance. And as you may know, antimicrobial resistance is a global problem. So we have collaborators in many parts of the world, including the Philippines, because we were looking at how pollution in the water, in agriculture, contributes to the emergence of antimicrobial resistance. So here I even sent one of my PhD students, Dina, together with Randolph, who is Filipino, and they gave a seminar at UP Diliman, and they've trained with many students there. They collected water samples from the Pasig River and wastewater from SM, and they're looking at, and they collected water from the river, and they analyzed those samples for antimicrobial resistance and occurrence of pharmaceuticals and antibiotics. So we also trained some of the Filipino students there, where they collected the samples and prepared the samples into something that we can ship to the US and where we could analyze them using liquid chromatography mass spectrometry. It was a very productive work. Here's also part of my sampling that, again, as my daughter. This is sampling at the Laguna Lake. That was me helping. And she's also a faculty from here from UP, from University of the Philippines. So I did not only bring students, but also brought faculty to collaborate with faculty from UP. So again, I'm showing you examples of where I mix my work with my personal life, and it's very productive. My daughter get to experience my life as a scientist, but I get to still be a mother to her at the same time. Lastly, I want to show you the last thing that I collaborated with in the Philippines, where one of my students who went to the Philippines and Thailand and collected water samples to look at perfluoroalkyl substances, which are also called forever chemicals. So these are chemicals that is everywhere, found everywhere, including in your bottled water, which you might think would be very clean, but in fact, some of these chemicals still get into our drinking water. So again, Laguna Lake is a very interesting place. It's a big source of drinking water for Manila and many parts of Luzon. So we need to protect it. Here's Grace. She brought in some of colleagues from UP and collected water samples there, and it became a publication. So again, Paul is part of this work, and we were able to publish that work. So kind of I wanted to be more conversational, so you could ask me questions, but I really want to emphasize to you that, some of the things you have in mind before, where you say, oh, don't mix work with play. You work while you work, play while you play. No, you can mix it together, right? Every time I have the opportunity when I travel, I bring my daughter, I run with her in marathon, in kayak, and travel, and bike. But I still became successful in my work. She goes rock climbing. I try to pretend I'm rock climbing, but I'm not. But she's rock climbing. And now she graduated in a university here. So another thing, these are my collaborators and friends. It was a group meeting from our project in Iowa, and we say, okay, we're done with the meeting. Now we get to go biking. So we did, and I always try to mix that work and play. Finally, I want to close by saying that I have become successful. I have become where I am because of a very supportive family. So don't forget your roots. I never forget where I come from. I always go home at least once a year, typically twice a year, holidays, because you have to make that connection. And when I go home, I always, again, try to mix it with work. I try to visit colleagues from UP, and recruit students. I try to collaborate so that it's not just a wasted time, it's also a very productive time. Okay, so lastly, I want to share that because of all the support that I have from students, from friends, from family, I was really happy that my university acknowledged all the hard work that I have done. I became the director of a big institute at the university, and then they also honored me in its first Spotlight Symposium from the College of Arts and Sciences to honor the most productive faculty. So I'm proud to share this with not only with my students, but with all my Filipino friends here in Buffalo. So these are most of them. Some of them are students who came back. They're already graduated, but many of them are Filipino community at the Buffalo city. I always share that with them. There is a Western New York Philippine American Association. It's very important to stay connected with the community, and that's why I'm very active with the Philippine American Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering. It's really important to give back. So lastly, I want to close by saying pursue your passion. I'm very passionate about chemistry. I'm very passionate about community engagement. I'm very passionate about mentoring and giving back to the Philippines. So anything I have the opportunity to do that while being a mother, while being a friend, while being a community member, I do. So with that, I'd like to stop my presentation here and give you the opportunity to ask me any questions you may have. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you my story.
Yes, thank you for sharing your story, Dr. Aga. We will have the open forum after the three speakers has presented their presentation. But thank you for sharing your story, Dr. Aga. The way that your mom sing the Que Sera Sera song became your guiding thread in your life, and it's truly touching and powerful reminder how passion, perseverance, and trust in the journey can lead to meaningful service and leadership in science. Thank you for sharing that work and personal life can go hand in hand as long as you love what you do. Now, we will proceed with our second speaker. And to introduce her, may I call on Dr. Maria Margaret Opena, the current PAASE President and Professor of the Department of Biological Sciences of the University of South Carolina.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Diana, for that very inspiring talk. I really like that. That really spells our experience. But anyway, I would like to present our second speaker now. Do you have, okay, so we have a slide here. So our next speaker is Dr. Felicitas Lacbawan, or Fe, as we call her fondly. Dr. Fe Lardizabal Lacbawan is actually a classmate of my husband, so I know her by her first name, maiden name first. But she also earned her undergraduate degree from the University of the Philippines in Los Baños, and then her medical degree at UP Manila, where she began her career as a faculty member at the Department of Human Biochemistry and Molecular Biology at the UP College of Medicine. In 1991, she moved to the United States to pursue clinical training in clinical pathology, anatomic pathology, and clinical genetics. Over more than 30 years, she has built a distinguished career spanning genetics and genomics, bioinformatics, clinical practice, and diagnostics across leading academic, research, clinical, and industry institutions in the United States. During the COVID-19 pandemic, she served as Vice President for Advanced Diagnostics, Genetics and Genomics, Research and Development, and Bioinformatics, and as Chief Medical Officer, Genetics and Genomics at Quest Diagnostics, where she led major molecular, cytogenetics, genomics, oncology, and bioinformatics programs. In September 2023, she rejoined the University of the Philippines as research professor and executive director of the Philippine Genome Center, serving until January 2025, and she currently serves as Vice President, Global Medical Director of a Dublin-based clinical research organization, with her latest honor being the Philippine Science High School's 11th Gawad Lagablab Award. Fe, I would like to introduce you to everybody, and I'd like for them to hear your story. I've heard it so many times. I interact a lot with their class since my husband is her classmate. So please welcome Dr. Fe Lacbawan.
Thank you, Marge, for the generous introduction. And maybe some people here have known me way back, but let me share what I've been trying to share in the community as well as in different forum, so people can understand how we have pursued a passion also similar to Diana. So let me share my slide. Hold on a second. Okay. See. Sharing is not turned on. Somebody needs to turn on my sharing.
Feb, can you turn it on?
Ayan na po.
Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. We're good?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Okay, sure. I titled my presentation or shared presentation, My Accelerating Journey in Genetics Genomics, because actually it started way back high school, as Marge mentioned. I graduated from the Philippine Science High School, and trying to figure out what I would pursue in college is something that has been like maybe influenced by biology teachers, right? So I did get my biology bachelor's degree in UP Los Baños at the time because there was no genetics program in Diliman. And so practically, who knows what will happen after genetics, right? But bottom line, it was a pre-med program in a way that led me to UP College of Medicine and then later on into my journey. People ask me, when did you first kind of try to line yourself with genetics? And I said, oh, maybe way back high school or college. And it's like, why? If genetics and genomics are not well kind of like established, but the primordial beginnings of genetics and genomics is really biology. Okay, so I started, as I mentioned, as a biology major in genetics, went into the College of Medicine, and basically did what every other kind of student do, study and get to finish medicine. And the only thing that kind of separated me from my group or from my class is actually I did not pursue residency right away. I had my family, went into academia. I joined the College of Medicine and I became one of the faculty members in biochemistry and human biochemistry and molecular biology at the College of Medicine. And that probably strengthened my desire to do something different because at the time I'm more interested really in something that explains why diseases happen. And so that led me to the fact that I wanted to get into residency. My classmates have been finished already in the residency, but I was like, oh, I still need to get into residency. So I tried my luck in the United States. I came in 1992, trained as clinical pathology first because I thought we will return to the Philippines after 3 years, but my husband decided to take on his graduate studies. And so we kind of one led to another. We stayed on until I finished my anatomic pathology as well as my clinical genetics fellowship. So I did get my training at SUNY, upstate New York near Buffalo. And so Diana, we kind of like probably overlap in a way, but not too much. And then I joined the National Human Genome Research Institute because of the need or because of the desire to get into a genetics program. At the time, pathology didn't have its molecular genetic pathology program as a fellowship. And so I said, oh, why not take clinical genetics as a program in the National Institutes of Health? So luckily, they recognized my training at the Philippine General Hospital as an intern. And so I was able to kind of like made my mentors or made the faculty understand that I can do clinical work, right? I'm a pathologist, but I can do clinical work and I can see patients myself and kind of like examine patients and be able to diagnose those patients. So stayed on at the National Human Genome Research Institute. Initially, I was looking at or taking care of osteogenesis imperfecta. It's a bone disease or disorder, genetically inherited. And so at the time, the human genome was also being sequenced at the Human Genome Research Institute and some other big institutions in the US. I was just fortunate that I was able to get into their fellowship and was able to to finish the fellowship as a clinical genetics fellow, and then hired at the National Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C. Again, this is where Filipinos, since we are actually trained well, the exposure in the Philippine General Hospital made me eligible to take on a fellowship and a consulting role at the Children's National Medical Center. In fact, I was also lucky to get funding, an internal funding at the Human Genome Research Institute, and I continued as a researcher half of the time and as a consultant attending physician half of the time at the Children's Hospital. So I think I'm just lucky that I was there at the right time, the right place, and at the same time, the passion to pursue whatever I wanted to do. And so when I was at Children's Hospital, I was able to look into or take care of patients who have different kinds of genetic disorders. At the time, diagnostics was very, very crude in a way. You can do chromosome study, and you can do some in situ hybridization of the chromosomes, but never to the gene level, right? So that actually, I'm again fortunate to follow the trajectory of the Human Genome Research Institute in terms of sequencing the human genome, at the same time applying those advances into diagnostics and into the clinic. So I was able to help put together clinical trials where we actually characterize different disorders, from bone disorders to neurologic disorders to mitochondrial disorders. And because patients come to the Children's Hospital, we bring them to the National Institutes of Health. And mind you, it's like very fulfilling because you don't know the diagnosis when the patient comes in, but with all the advances in technology, you can do it under research and then confirm it as a clinical diagnosis for those patients. So those patients that I've seen had taught me a lot, and that actually kind of made me more crave for more. And so I stayed with the National Human Genome Research Institute, but actually moved into Georgetown University, and I led the molecular diagnostics laboratory under the Cancer Institute. Then funding was not very easy to come by, and so I said, look, if there's a way to move to some other place. I was lucky enough that a molecular genetic pathology program was going to open in SUNY Downstate, or State University of New York in Brooklyn. They hired me as the pathologist who would develop that program, as well as install or establish their molecular pathology. So that is my contribution to SUNY Downstate. And after a few years there, moved to the Cleveland Clinic. But then again, as I mentioned, I started with all this basics or fundamental knowledge from the University of the Philippines in Los Baños and into the College of Medicine, where we are introduced in biochemistry and molecular biology, the basics, right? So the genome has the blueprint that makes the proteins, and all these networks and functions, cell function, are organized and orchestrate all the phenotypic, anatomic, and behavioral characteristics of humans, and that actually is what we look into. So when I was at SUNY upstate during my training, it so happened that there was this familial disorder that's very, it's genetic, it's autosomal dominant, it's affected a very big family. Unfortunately, the manifestation is like they lose their memory, they have very kind of repetitive behaviors, and it's a big family, it's a French-American family. And so within the family, they have a way of pinpointing, or at least become suspicious of who the family members who are going to be affected. So one of the family members died, and actually they donated the brain for studies. And a colleague of mine, a neuropathology fellow, actually identified these bodies, and it could be Lewy bodies, but they're accumulations in neurons, right? So then it becomes now a question of what are these accumulations? And mind you, we were able to identify these accumulations because of amino acid determination, right? So we were able to identify peptides, amino acids, 10 amino acids, and we thought, well, look, blast it into the database, and maybe there's a protein that actually is identified, and therefore we identified neuroserpin as the protein that's actually accumulated. And very kind of like near to our heart too, because it's biochemistry based, right? So neuroserpins are actually what do you call this, proteases, and actually they cut phosphates and activate enzymes. So then therefore that actually the protein folding is very important, and this is now known to be the mechanism of those accumulated inclusion bodies. So I mentioned that we were studying that during the time at the human genome, and we identified the gene as a neuroserpin, and therefore we're able to establish that the mutation is actually a single nucleotide base change that makes the protein fold differently from its original or normal folding, and therefore they actually accumulate and cause the disease. So right now, I think this is like a very fertile ground for protein modeling, and actually there are publications, and I'm not active in the field anymore, but there are publications in the field where they're trying to figure out, can you treat this disease by CRISPR? Can you make some ways so that the unfolding or the folding will be disturbed, and so you don't have to accumulate those proteins inside those neurons and all those other mechanisms to block those folding disorders. So that actually kind of completes my journey in terms of gene discovery, but it did not stop the way I pursued genetic testing, right? So I remember I said I was a clinical geneticist, but I don't have much to go by. And so I know that back then, 1959, trisomy 21 was actually identified. So you can do chromosome studies and count the numbers of chromosomes, and you identify or diagnose trisomy 21. But then with all the advances in DNA sequencing, and practically one can now sequence any gene, there are disorders that have been identified and explained by these different gene changes or nucleotide or any other mutations. And so one can now actually use even whole exome sequencing, whole genome sequencing in the field of clinical genetics to diagnose patients. But not all disorders are actually being explained yet. And so 20,000 genes in the whole genome, and we only have probably 5,000, 6,000 of those disorders that are actually explained in the genetic or molecular basis for those disorders. So we have yet to do a lot, but at the end of the day, technology had moved on. Sequencing has become very cheap, and therefore there's more to do. I joined here, let's see, Georgetown. I practically, I mentioned SUNY Downstate ahead of time, but then after SUNY Downstate, I went to Cleveland Clinic. At the Cleveland Clinic, we first did next generation sequencing at the time, and we actually brought in several genetic testing for the community as well as for the service lab for Cleveland Clinic. I didn't stay long until Quest Diagnostics actually recruited me to their laboratory. It is at Quest Diagnostics where actually changing careers from academia and research institution to industry is a little bit of a big kind of like pivot. You pivot in a way that here's an industry that doesn't have really, they would want revenue, they would want efficiency, they would want productivity and leadership and management, right? So baptism in fire, you're in charge of a division, then later on, the whole advanced diagnostics was brought under my care, and I had to reorganize, I had to streamline processes, I have to hire people, and part of the research and development group had to produce all this validation of tests ranging from whole exome sequencing to gene testing. So I was in charge of molecular genetics, biochemical genetics, cytogenetics, molecular hematology, and molecular oncology, as well as bioinformatics. And so that actually was like the culmination of all the things that one would want to do. And I think pandemic hit, we were ready. We were one of the first ones who actually contributed to the sequencing of the SARS-CoV-2. But at this point, Diana must have the luxury to really bring her family with her wherever she went and had all these activities together with the family. At this point in my career, I was actually in the West Coast in California, and my family is in the East Coast. My husband was alone. My daughter has her own family, and it was a rude awakening. It was a rude awakening because we don't know what the pandemic brings. And so I told Quest Diagnostics, whether or not you want me, I'm going back to where my husband is. God forbid something happens to me in the West Coast or something happens to my husband in the East Coast. It's not, I will kind of bear it with guilt till death, right? So practically, life-changing decisions can happen. So I said, I'll serve for 1 year, back and forth, California and the East Coast. And then I said, if I can retire. So I retired from Quest Diagnostics, but retiring from this industry, people know that you have done something and people know of your background. Headhunters kind of followed me, and after a few months, I sort of cannot resist but went back to joining Becton Dickinson. And at the time, Becton Dickinson, if you have done any blood work or anything in the laboratory in the hospital, you would have used those tubes that Becton Dickinson actually produced. And so at the time, I was the vice president for medical affairs, and we were actually validating all those tubes based on FDA regulations. But I didn't stay long enough in Becton Dickinson, and I moved to another institution where actually I continued some of the laboratory cancer testing that we have started in Quest Diagnostics, but this time more on having a pharmaceutical serving laboratory and a clinical laboratory. So that's where I was introduced to a lot of pharma clinical trials. And it didn't take long too. During the time that I was there, the Philippine Genome Center was kind of like wanting an executive director. And I said to myself, well, look, maybe it's time to leave all of this, go complete retire, and move to the Philippines. Unfortunately, plans change, and there's some twist in terms of leadership decisions. I was given a mandatory retirement at 65, and so I said, I mean, I cannot prolong my stay in the Philippines without being given the authority and the support. And so I moved back to the US. So back in the US in 2025, retired again and did some other work, busy with some family affairs and some extension work beside .NET and all those other UP Medical Association activities. But again, people, I mean, they come and the LinkedIn actually is like, I didn't believe in LinkedIn for a while there, but basically it's through LinkedIn that people kind of follow through. And several headhunters came and asked me if I could look at what they would want me to consider. I said, well, look, it's like maybe it's time to go back. I tried retiring. It's not as glorified as what you think. I think people who are so used to working day in, day out and have more ideas that are not really realized or have more dreams that are not really fulfilled, I sort of like, okay, let me see what you have. So back in November, I looked into what is out there. And here I am hired by Icon PLC. It's a Dublin, Ireland based company. I think this would be fulfilling enough because this is the group of people who are actually making clinical trials fulfill drug discovery and biotechnology. So that said, they actually can shorten regulatory compliances and FDA approval as well as IVDR. And so I said to myself, what will you use your experience and your talent and your skills if you actually would deny this company your experience? So I said, go for it. Let's go and check it out. So last 3 weeks, I'm 3 weeks in this company. I think that so far so good, but still the challenges, right? So every company has to be productive, has to be efficient, it has to be revenue generating, has to be cost effective, everything else that actually would grow the company, because it's a publicly traded company, and that is why you have to have not only your responsibilities with the patients that are part of the clinical trials, but also with the people who have invested money in this company. So that said, I will kind of probably I said those things, and I don't need to go through them one by one, but just to emphasize the fact that when I was at Quest, it was very fulfilling. It was the time that I had every other test that I would want to validate was there except whole genome sequencing. And so cancer diagnosis and treatment was facilitated by diagnostics, and Philippine Genome Center, I guess I could share what I planned, and maybe I have certainly planted some seeds, and hopefully succeeding directors and people who would work the Philippine Genome Center can continue what we have. So I realized that the Philippine Genome Center actually is equipped with both talent as well as equipment, and that kind of pivoted the goal into, after the pandemic, you've proven that you can help diagnostics in the Philippines, molecular diagnostics in the Philippines. And so here I am, a diagnostician, laboratory molecular, and therefore we should probably pivot in that direction. So I reorganized the Philippine Genome Center. Yes, it still took the technical services, the research and the training portion, but I was trying to drive it into a clinical diagnostic lab because it has the equipment and it has the talent or people who could drive it through. Here's like a quick kind of run through in terms of a clinical sample into clinical insight. And in between, there's a lot of bioinformatics, there's a lot of informatics, there's a lot of streamlining and computer technology that needs to be in there. So I also had introduced the fact that machine learning and AI in genetics and genomics actually make it not only refine the processes, but actually makes it more meaningful because the data is there. These are large data, they're big data that can actually serve as data sets that can train software or whatever systems that are being built, or even come to a point where you can discover genes or pathogenic variants of genes, as well as discover drugs that could also help in treatment. That said, one of the things that was not there was actually the ability to curate and annotate all these variants, right? So I practically had initiative to build this, whether it would be something that somebody else will pursue. I created or I built the variant annotation group when I was at Quest Diagnostics. So to me, it's like it's not a new thing, but at the same time, you need to train people who would understand variant curation and annotation. So again, the molecular biology has expanded, and we know a lot from genomics to omics. And so this transcriptomics to all these omics need to be utilized in the clinic. biomarkers of health and disease. It's from genomics to all these other even metabolomics as well as glycomics and lipidomics, and even other epigenetic processes, right? So there's technology and platform way out there. I don't need to belabor the points, but the biomarkers are now being studied and detected and can be used for diagnostics, and the Philippines is way far behind. We have to send out testing even for simple kind of like sequencing of breast cancer genes, colon cancers, methylation studies, and all those kind of things, right? So some of our Asian partners are already way ahead. When I was at the Philippine Genome Center, they came and made us partners, or they kind of want us to be partners. But my reservation there is that they will utilize us as end users instead of making us progress in transferring that technology to us, and therefore we can use it for other purposes. That said, here's all the cancer biomarkers nowadays. Some of them are targets for treatment. Some of them are really very important in terms of driving cancer or their driver mutations, and they can actually serve in prognosis and diagnostics as well as treatment. And of course, liquid biopsy, right? So the smaller pieces of DNA that are circulating in the blood can be used as monitoring for treatment. They cannot use for diagnosis yet, but they actually are early detection. That's not something that is offered in the clinics right now, but they can be used for surveillance, they can be used for treatment, and they can be actually a very effective way of prognostication in terms of cancer patients. So we know genetics and genomics play a big role in the continuum of care, from screening to diagnosis to treatment and prognosis. And therefore, here is like the full spectrum of the role of genetics and genomics, but also proteomics and some of the other omics that comes with after genomics. So just to share, this is not public knowledge, but there was a plan that we should sequence our whole genome sequence in the Philippines. There was I think some of these portions can be initiated, and I think they have plans to continue it. But during my time, we expanded the proposal to sequence 25,000 Filipinos instead of just 5,000 or just 10,000. Our Singaporeans counterpart are actually in the hundreds of thousands already, and probably the English or the UK folks are in their millions, and of course the US had millions of whole genome sequencing. Bottom line here is that we need a reference sequence for Filipinos because we cannot interpret our variances based on the variants that are existing in the Caucasian population. And even in the US, if you're a Filipino and your gene was sequenced, they will interpret it based on the human genome reference sequence that's made up of mostly Caucasians, less Asians, and of course, a trickle of Filipinos. So that said, we have to have our own human genome variant analysis as well as human genome assembly so that we could get meaningful and variant interpretation. And it is a disservice to our Filipino population if we don't give them the right interpretation. So I also mentioned about establishing the clinical diagnostic laboratory at the Philippine Genome Center, focusing on cancer and other cardiovascular disease. This has not materialized because of, I will tell you, research in the Philippines, everybody else will say, reagent, supply chain, equipment, everything else is like really moving too slow. And before you know it, it's already 1 year and you are just trying to get positive samples to be bought in the US so that we could use them in the Philippines. So those are my frustrations, but I did not stop. Came back to the US, as I mentioned earlier. To me, this is an opportunity. This is the right time to actually put together what needs to be put together, learn more, and maybe it's not just the Filipinos that we can help. It's a global effort to really fight genetic diseases and cancer, and even probably infectious diseases, because there's a lot of genetic genomics portions there, and maybe harness the artificial intelligence advances and make sure that whatever progress we have, we can actually bring in or bring it to the different countries and globally. So here's Icon. Icon is actually, as mentioned, it's a company that actually is globally situated. They recruit patients for clinical trials for drugs, for cancer treatment, for even biotechnology for diagnostics. So hopefully they have actually presence in the Philippines. We have a laboratory in Singapore, in China, and 4 in the US and Europe. So that means hopefully the effect of whatever I can contribute would be more global this time. So takeaways, I hope I have time. Genetics and genomics is for precision medicine, and it's actually transcending from diagnosis, treatment, prognosis, and prevention. It's the holistic approach that actually you have to have the right patient, the right test, and the right time. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the need for genomics, Philippines to really have its own whole genome sequence, reference sequence. And then I thought that I started the baby steps, making sure that Philippine Genome Center can pivot to become a diagnostic laboratory, and hopefully we can develop more tests and also use whatever is transformative in the laboratory for other organisms or for other biodiversity or any other projects within the Philippine Genome Center. To me, here's the takeaway for the whole of my talk. Be knowledgeable, be discernful, be vigilant, and be an advocate. And I think it will not stop there if we all become one of this. And then I think that together we push on omics. Basic sciences, chemistry is like the foundation of all this, and for better Philippines and be competitive globally. Personal takeaways, I think, for you young individuals or scientists or upcoming scientists, stick to your core values, for you know best what your superpower is. Your skill set and competences, your competitive advantage. I have been through the rigors of academia, research, and industry. There's always that glass ceiling. There's always that bamboo ceiling because we're Asians, right? So I went through that, powered through. I kept my core values and said to myself, if I'm worth it, I have to show them that I'm worth it, right? So be a catalyst, be an agent of change, participate, collaborate, and be a servant leader. If you have management and leadership capabilities, I'm not a born natural leader, but I had to go through a transformation. And it's logical that you have to lead people, and you just have to stay grounded and make sure that you treat other people like you want to treat yourself. The golden rule. Find your rock and ally. There will always be a need for your family, your friends, your colleagues. And then let it go when things are really becoming tough. You can conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. This is actually the line from Frozen, but it's emotional quotient. You cannot be angry. You cannot be resentful. You have to make sure that you control those emotions. You can, sometimes they say fake it until you make it, but probably that's too much or that's too strong quote. I think that you can make sure that you're rational and that you don't put too much emotion on certain and don't take anything a lot personal. There will be a lot of trials, but move on and then leave the place better than when you first found it. That's my mantra throughout all my career, throughout all the institutions that I've been there. And maybe, hopefully, the feedback will be better and you will be actually more fulfilled. So thank you for the opportunity to share my journey. Here's actually my family is on the right, my daughter and my granddaughter. And my granddaughter was once actually a when you bring your daughter to work, she's that little girl over here. And hopefully future physicians and scientists, you are our pride, and we move on and we have to be competitive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lacbawan. That is a really inspiring talk, and um, we can really see how you really love your work, the way you talk about it, and and really age is just a number when there are dreams
Correct.
unfulfilled and ideas unrealized. I really
Correct.
like that one. um, I know we have a lot of things to ask to our speaker, but we have an open forum later after our third speaker. So without further ado, we will now proceed to our last, but definitely not the least speaker. I would like to call on Dr. Eileen May Ang, a professor at the Chemistry Department of Central Mindanao University, and also the director of Center of Natural Products Research Development and Extension from the same university, to introduce our third speaker.
Good morning to everyone joining from the Philippines, and good evening to those from the US. Our next speaker is Dr. Mylene. Dr. Uy is a professor and dean of the College of Science and Mathematics at Mindanao State University of Technology. Her continued shape products pioneer on bio compounds rooted terrestrial parallel innumerable bridge chemistry sustainability in local to relevant scientific chemistry to Japan Japanese government and has decades of service to advance sustainable development. In 2020, her teaching and academic was nationally recognized when she was named of outstanding Pinoy. Beyond, I have Pator, a research supervisor who leads with patient and quiet excellence. She has mentored many students, including myself, who led major courses and teams and continues to inspire through her community management, policy involvement, and strong impact. A passionate for inclusive STEM education, chemical safety and security, and small chemistry, closely educators, researchers, communities across. Above all, Dr. Uy is driven that serve its transform knowledge and apathy into innovations. Please help from our speaker, Mylene, Dr. Uy.
Thank you, Eileen, for the kind introduction. Although the audio was a bit static, but then still, I guess everyone already knows based on the slide platform. Let me now share my screen. Can my screen do you see?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Doc, your audio is a little nag-echo po.
Oh, why? I don't know why. Maybe I'm not opening my phone. It's still echoing.
Yes po, and mahina po.
Maybe I can use audio of my laptop. Sorry for that.
Not audible yet po.
Hindi po marinig.
Oh, what happened? Let me stop sharing first, and I'll change.
Okay na po. Mag-clear na po.
Sorry. Well, sorry.
Nag-choppy po ulit, Doc.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, what's happening?
Doc, can you try again po yung earphones? Let's try again po yung may earphones po. Let's see if may echo pa rin.
No, that's
Hindi po marinig. Hello, ma'am. We can't hear the audio.
Oh, I think Dr. Uy got disconnected.
Yeah, parang wala siya. So,
let's oh, yes.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we can hear you better po.
Okay. So let me share again.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
there you go.
All right. So can my slide now be seen?
yes
And my
po.
audio?
Yes,
My
Yes,
audio is
ma'am.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
Sorry for the technical glitches. I'm really in the Philippines. Sorry about that. So anyway, magandang umaga. Good morning. Let me say this first, that in a world often defined by complexity and rapid change, I believe that the most powerful science is not the one that shouts the loudest, but the one that listens. It listens to the voices of the marginalized. It listens to the women working quietly in the laboratory. It listens to communities far removed from the bustling centers of research. It is an honor to be with you today, February 10th, joining thousands of women across the globe, from New Zealand to New York, who are gathering at this very moment for the IUPAC Global Women's Breakfast. Thank you, the Philippine, American Academy of Science and Engineering, Central Mindanao University, and UP Las Bañas for this opportunity. I am a chemist, an educator, and a daughter of Mindanao, a place of diversity where many communities are interwoven. And my journey from the humble shores of my hometown in Pagadian City to Iligan City and to the cutting-edge laboratories of Hiroshima University and back is a testament to a single belief, that many roots can indeed shape one transformative science. Today, let me tell you a story about building bridges, not of steel or stone, but of molecules, mentorship, and values. This is how we bridge the gap between where we are and where we deserve to be. Let's start with roots. My roots are planted deep in the soil of Mindanao. Born and raised in Pagadian City, to a biology teacher mother and an engineer father, I learned early the values of service, truth, and compassion. My journey began not in a lab, but in a community fixed in resilience. In 1991, I earned my BS chemistry degree and became a licensed chemist. But with the country's economic downturn at that time, I struggled to find work in the industry and remained jobless for a year. Fortunately, an opportunity opened for me at my alma mater, the Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology, which needed a chemistry instructor. So I applied, driven not yet by long-term plans, but by the immediate need for work, and was hired in June 1993. Pursuing graduate studies thereafter was one of my most memorable experiences in my professional journey. It was an experience that shaped not only my career, but also my character. Because a year after joining the chemistry department at NSU ISP, I applied for the Monbushu Scholarship. During the interview, the Japanese consul in Davao kindly advised me to first pursue a master's degree in the Philippines, as I lacked 2 years of academic eligibility. We did not have yet the K-12 at that time. I took his advice to heart and completed my MS chemistry degree in 1995 at the USDS of Scotland. In 2001, I reapplied for the Monbushu Scholarship for my doctoral studies and was accepted. It was my first time abroad in Japan, and leaving my 2-year-old twin sons behind with my husband was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. I had to navigate loneliness, cultural adjustment, and the rigorous demands of academic life all at once. For me, it was a time of immense personal and professional growth. Through patience, perseverance, and prayer, I completed my degree on time. That chapter of my life taught me resilience, deepened my commitment to education, and affirmed the value of sacrifice in service of a greater purpose. I would not have been the teacher, researcher, or person that I am today without that journey. I had opportunities actually when I was in Japan after I finished. I could have stayed in Japan. I could have moved to Manila. The brain drain is a very real current that pulls our best talents away from the regions. But my roots pulled me farther. I realized then that if everyone lives, who builds the foundation too? So I chose to return. I returned to an ecosystem that was frankly struggling. We lacked PhD faculty, our facilities were outdated, but I saw the opportunity to serve and give back in greater capacity. I saw potential where others saw scarcity. I saw that our biodiversity in Mindanao held possible answers to global medical problems. This brings me to my first bridge, the bridge of research. At the Center of Natural Products and Drug Discovery, which I have helped establish in 2017, we don't just study chemicals, we study our heritage. Our research is anchored on Mindanao's biodiversity, its endemic plants, marine sponges, and indigenous knowledge. Chemistry has been a tool to unlock health innovations from our rich natural resources. We are hunting for bioactive compounds, potential cures for cancer, or pain for infection. But local research must have global standards. 2016, I became one of only 2 Filipinos accepted into the Novartis Next Generation Scientist program. Working in their labs in Singapore, I saw that the gap between a lab in Iligan or anywhere else in the region, in the Philippines, and a lab in Singapore is not a gap in talent. It is only a gap in access. My mission then became closing that gap, at least for me. The challenges have been real: securing funds, mentoring without resources, building labs in resource-constrained contexts. But success came through persistence, collaboration, and faith. with full support of the NSU-IIT system for the provision of space and the DOS Philippine Council for Health Research and Development for the provision of funds for essential equipment, we were able to establish January 2017 the Cell Culture and Cell-Based Assay Laboratory, a BSL-2 facility. It was the first of its kind in Mindanao at that time. With the laboratory, we were equipped to implement research projects related to cancer, which subsequently resulted in several significant outputs, including identification of Mindanao traditional medicines, medicinal plants rather, marine sponges, and seahorses with potential anti-cancer activity. The lab has also been the training grounds of many research fellows and has also catered faculty and student researchers, not just from all over Mindanao, but even from some from Visayas and so on. We also established the Natural Products and Drug Discovery Research Group, which later on became the Center for Natural Products and Drug Discovery. We secured grants. We forged collaborations. We even formalized a partnership with Sumadsu lately to making NSU-IIT the first Philippine higher education partner. This is not just for prestige. It is to ensure that when a student in Mindanao discovers a molecule, the world pays attention. These wins are never mine alone. They belong to a network of belief, family, colleagues, community, and most importantly, God's will. However, excellence in science is dangerous if it is not paired with values. Chemistry is powerful. It can heal, but it can also harm. One of the most critical bridges I helped build was the bridge of safety and security. For years, chemical safety in our regions was reactive, not proactive. I trained to become a chemical safety and security officer and facilitated the training of many more thereafter, even having our whole chemistry department attend such a training, the comfort of Sheraton Hotel in Cebu, courtesy of Sandia Laboratory. I also spearheaded the chemical security awareness webinars and training programs across Mindanao. We did not just teach people how to mix chemicals. We taught them how to protect their community from chemical threats. We institutionalized guidelines for biohazardous materials at universities. True science is responsible science. If we are to build a nation of innovators, we must first ensure that they are safe. Another value I hold dear is equity. How can we expect a student in a remote high school to love chemistry if he or she has never held a test tube, or if their school cannot even afford reagents? This is why I also champion small-scale chemistry. In fact, in collaboration with the Chemical Society of Thailand and experts like Dr. Sukowan Santayanon, we brought the BBLCSD small-scale chemistry training to the Philippines in 2023. It was the first to be conducted in the country, followed by training in Visayas and Luzon. To sustain the promotion and utilization of small-scale chemistry, we enabled the participation of 10 high school teachers from Mindanao to an in-depth training, the trainers in small-scale chemistry in Thailand. Some of these teacher trainers have also started to replicate what they have learned from However, we have partnered with the Center for Integrated STEM Education Incorporated to jointly implement teacher professional learning initiatives, including capacity building workshops and training programs like small-scale chemistry. Just recently, more than 50 teachers from our Lanao provinces have benefited from this partnership, and more are to come. We teach teachers how to do experiments using drops of chemicals, said teachers. We use low-cost household materials. This does two things: it reduces waste, protecting our environment, and more importantly, it emphasizes science. It tells the student in the farthest barrio, you can be a scientist too. You don't need a million peso lab. You just need a curious mind, and it will take you. This brings me to the heart of today's gathering, the voices. Science has historically been a monologue. Men spoke, we listened. But looking around the Zoom room and thinking of the thousands of women meeting today, I see that the monologue is over. As a scientist and mentor, my proudest achievement is not just the research output, it is the human output. I have mentored over 100 students, more than 40 of which were graduate students, and many of them are women who are now balancing life, the class, and family, just as I did, one of which is Dr. Ang. They're now scientists, educators, and leaders in various universities in Mindanao. We women, no? We bring something to the bench. We bring resilience. We bring a holistic perspective. We understand that chemistry is not just about bond angles. It is about bonds between people. When we empower a woman with science, we do not just get a researcher. We get a mentor, a community leader, a bridge. And this is my vision for One Science. We often think we need to leave the region or even the country to find real science. But my journey and the latest recognition from the Metrobank Foundation proves otherwise. It proves that Filipino scientists working in the regions, working in Iligan, can produce work that stands toe-to-toe with the world. So to the young women here, do not let anyone tell you that your gender or your geography limits your potential. Your roots are your strength. You do not need to become someone else. Bring your full self, your culture, your softness, your courage. Science needs your voice. Your voice matters in labs, classrooms, and communities. Whether from the mountains or the metropolis, you belong in the future of science. Let us redefine what scientific excellence looks like, not in isolation, but in interconnection. Not in numbers alone, but more importantly, in lives. Because when many roots nourish one science, the harvest feeds generation. So as we enjoy our breakfast today, let us digest this challenge. Do not just climb the ladder of success, but build a bridge. Build a bridge for the students who think they are not smart enough. Build a bridge for the young girl who thinks chemistry is too hard. Build a bridge for the researcher who lacks funding. Build a bridge for the colleague who is struggling to learn. Build a bridge between our indigenous knowledge and global thinking. Let us use our chemistry not just to react, but to transform. Let us honor our many roots. Let us uplift our many voices. And let us work together with shared values toward one transformative science for the Philippines. And with that, daghang salamat and happy Global Women Breakfast.
Thank you, Dr. Uy. Thank you for sharing your roots and your journey in science and leadership. Your efforts have truly made waves in advancing and strengthening science in Mindanao. Also, thank you for your reminder that we must own our roots, whether we came from mountains or whatever places, whether we are poor or we are rich, and we have to build a bridge for others. So we are truly honored to have our speakers, Dr. Aga, Dr. Lacbawan, and Dr. Oy with us today. This has been a meaningful morning and breakfast for everyone. Thank you for sharing your thoughtful reflections and for being our Filipinas silent heroes in science. Now we will proceed to the open forum. Bethel?
Yes, we will now open the floor for questions from our audience. Participants on Zoom, you may send your questions in the chat box, or you can just raise your hand if you have questions. Also, for our viewers in Facebook Live, you can comment your questions in the comment section of the post. So we have a raised hand from Al Serafica.
Yes.
Just want to say thank you, ladies. Good job. Diana and Ben and Mylene. I mean, I've always been a fan of yours, following your journeys in more detail today. Yeah. My quick question now is because of my involvement with, nice for you to say your collaboration, Mylene, with System. Our last assessment of when do we lose our kids' interest in science is now not in high school but in grade school. Actually, the study was done in the US, says that it actually is gone by grade 4 because of the competing need for eyeballs for social media, TikTok, Instagram, and the likes. So, my question to you is, we all mentored scientists and undergrad and even probably high school. But what do we do with the grade school? Because I always believe that it takes a teacher or a mentor to interest you first. For me, it happened at grade 5 and grade 6, being a contestant for Quiz Bee. And that put me in a track to Philippine science, became a scientist. But how do we expand that reach? May start with your communities, of course, high schools and affiliated universities. But my challenge is being part of the Balik Scientist group also. I am also wanting to look for how do we do for like scientists to the barrios, Diana and Fe, kind of version for us. And of course, Giselle, way back at the caravan idea for PAASE, no? We did the multifaceted PAASE meeting when Gladys was president, being in Rizal, Batangas, Los Baños, and Leyte. But kulang pa rin eh. Parang I'm wanting to scratch my head, especially I have 2 girls. That's partly why I'm also very interested in how to kind of attract them. One is more psychology in UP oriented, but the other one's more techie, being an iPad baby in 2010. So my question to you, ladies, is there a program in your respective neighborhoods or that you've encountered that's ideal for even the younger scientists, would be scientists as well? I don't know if it's a relevant question for this particular breakfast, but believe me, I will bother you even after this if you have a good idea. Thank you.
So maybe anyone from the speakers can answer.
Yeah. I'm sure they all have inputs. Let's start with Dr. Aga.
So I'm probably not the best one to answer this because I have one daughter and she did not want to be a chemist. Uh, she's a psychologist, and I think for me, I tell her 3 things to be successful and happy in life in her career. I said to her, you don't need to be a chemist, you don't need to be a scientist, but you need to have these 3 things. First, you must earn enough salary to support your needs and wants. You must enjoy your job and your career so that you don't feel that it's a job. It's actually a hobby that pays. And number 3, it has to be legal. So that's it. It happens to be that some of us really have passion for science. But having said that, I have a lot of high school students here at the US that I mentor during the summer, and they come because at the beginning of their high school, I think it's the high school level that really makes them interested in either science or math or engineering. That was true for me. I really got interested in chemistry during my high school. So
Thank you, Dr. Aga. So let's hear from Dr. Lacbawan.
Sure. So yes, social media and immediate gratification is an enemy too. But don't lose hope because your children would actually they're observant, right? They observe and they figure out. My daughter didn't like genetics at all. She would say, "Why will I go to that field when in fact I can do better in some other fields," right? But by I don't know, by um I mean, maybe because she was exposed to a lot of people that she knows that are working in the science field. Civil is a PAASE member. She was growing with residents in the hospital and everything by osmosis, maybe. It's the subliminal stimulation that probably made her think, well, yeah, this is more fulfilling, right? So now she's actually a fellow with Civil, and now she can't even decide whether she wants to do clinical work or stay in research because it's very interesting. I mean, the field is very interesting, and there's a lot that you can do to make or fulfill yourself or fulfill your curiosity. So I think yes, exposure, maybe we don't realize that we think that we're lacking in exposure, but no, I think we continue to be exposing and be influencing kids, and the curiosity will come, the right time will come, and the fulfillment will come. So I'm more positive than anyone. But to me, it's like you'll never know. AI is all over the place, right? So practically, if they're interested in knowing more, they can know more, right? Ahead of us. But at the end of the day, there will always be some problems that can be solved by people who have been really exposed to science.
Now let's hear from Dr. Mylene.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sir Al. Good to see you here, even online. Thank you for the question. I feel more, no, of the Sir Al's question because I'm here. Okay. Yeah, that's really what is happening. Personally, I have been extending help to our elementary, not just high school teachers, but also elementary teachers in their science investigatory project. So that's one way of exposing our students, young students, elementary students, to the beauty of science. I always, if there are invitations to judge elementary fairs, I always go because that's where you can feel the fun, no, from our young children. And that's on a personal side, but the university, MSU-IIT, has been in collaboration with our Department of Education, this year in Mindanao and nearby provinces. And we have programs, yearly programs, wherein we retool, reskill our science teachers, high school and elementary, so that they will be more equipped, no, in bringing science to our kids. Because how can we expect our elementary students or high school students to appreciate our science if the person delivering the science is not good? So I guess that's one thing that we can continue, Sir Al, and even how do you call this, improve more, no? My collaboration with System, I believe, will also help this one. I'm grateful that we have System, which is funded by Unilab Foundation, the attorney Chavez. And we recently had that MOA with them. And we will not just limit it to Lanao. We also intend to bring it to the whole of Mindanao. In fact, we are aiming barn regions because if you look at the survey, kulilap talaga sila. They are the lowest. They have the lowest. So we intend to do this within the year, hopefully.
Thank you to our dear speakers. We have a couple of questions from the chat box. I think I'm gonna collate these two questions. So first, for Dr. Aga, as a student interested in environmental chemistry, I would like to ask if there is a significant gap between the Philippines and the USA in terms of chemistry skills, techniques, and instrumentation. In your experience po, can Filipino chemists realistically catch up? Also, I would like to um throw in this also for Dr. Lacbawan because I think it's a bit similar. You noted that the Philippines still faces a gap in genomic integration compared to global benchmarks. In your experience po, what would be the most effective way to bridge the knowledge gap between high-level genomic research and practitioners in our national or local clinics? So, Dr. Aga, you can answer.
For me, there were two questions, and my answer is yes and yes. Yes, there is a significant gap, especially in practical applications, because the instrumentations here are way advanced and state of the art, and we have the ability to exchange instrument, every 5 years. And unfortunately, and I know this in the Philippines, because as I mentioned earlier, I always go to the Philippines and collaborate, right? So I go to UP Diliman, even in UP Los Baños, I know that the instrumentation there is not existence, it's non-existence. So they actually, last week I was talking with faculty there to send their samples with us. Same thing in UP Diliman. And unfortunately, even when they have this instrumentation like liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry, it was only working for a year and then it broke down and there is no money to repair. So maintenance of this is really expensive. So that's unfortunate, and I hope that someday it can change. So because of that, my experience is the student coming from the Philippines lack that practical knowledge. They're strong in theoretical knowledge. However, the good news is that when they come here, the perseverance, the intellect, the fundamental knowledge, you can catch up very quickly. And 100% of the students that come here from the Philippines have no knowledge of a lot of the instrumentation, and they pick up because they are perseverance. They know how to. You also need to play politics, right? You need to befriend the students, befriend the faculty, and just use that to learn things. But so you have to work harder because you need to catch up with learning. But absolutely, you can catch up. And many of my students now, the Filipinos, are now way better and way ahead than the ones that people are here. Yeah. So,
Segue lang po ako, Dr. Aga, kasi ito na yung question. So, I'm sure we have a lot of students here that are also interested to pursue graduate studies. And you mentioned that you are accepting students from the Philippines at the university at Buffalo. So, we have a lot of good students in Mindanao, especially in Central Mindanao University and UPLB. So, how could they apply in your lab and in your department?
right,
I'm
right.
asking
So not just
for
in my
that.
lab, right? We have 40 faculty. So there is an online, you just Google University at Buffalo Chemistry Department or if Biology Department. So any department, not just chemistry, physics, engineering. And so there, everything is online. The good news actually is now you don't need to take the graduate record exam, which was expensive. They still require TOEFL, so test of English as foreign language. And then yeah, apply and contact faculty, and apply early because many of these deadlines are rolling deadlines. So once they've accepted, so most of them sends acceptance around January or sometimes even December. So so yeah, apply early because once that teaching assistant slots are filled, they don't accept anymore. And so when you come to the graduate program in many universities, not just here in Buffalo, many universities, if you're a PhD student, you get a teaching assistantship. So that's a given, especially for big universities. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Aga. I'll repeat the question for Dr. Lacbawan. So you noted that the Philippines still faces a gap in genomic integration compared to global benchmarks. In your experience, what would be the most effective way to bridge the knowledge gap between high-level genomic research and the practitioners in our national or local clinics?
Okay. It's an evolution. I think even in the US, the primary care physicians and the frontliners are not as we're aware of what is happening in the genetics genomics field, but it came with time, right? And I think in the Philippines, the silver lining of the pandemic is that the introduction of the fact that there are genomic technology that can be used like SARS-CoV-2 sequencing. That's like practically PCR amplification. It's like it became a household kind of language, and you can tap on that and build on it, right? So unfortunately, I biased, right? Because I was there for 1 year. I think Dr. Uy was lucky to be able to go back and do her service the way she wanted it. I don't know whether it's a cultural thing or whatever we call it. The change management was not to my favor. And yes, there's a lot of education, awareness building, and even really, truly curriculum changes within the medical field, right? But can we do it overnight? No. Can we do it slowly and introduce? And I think given the pre-medical graduates need to understand that it's a basic and fundamental knowledge that you have to have biochemistry, chemistry, molecular biology, because everything is explained molecularly, right? So bottom line, I think it's also the political will. I tell you, I was there for 1 year. Things didn't happen for me favorably, but I continue to help. I raise funds for fellowship. I'm sponsoring with UPMASA, I'm sponsoring fellowship, molecular pathology fellowship people. I may not return in the Philippines to serve the Philippines because the environment is not conducive for me to go back. But to me, it's like the little that we do, we make sure that it is amplified and practically helping people to help themselves and making sure that they pass it on is something that probably would happen and will happen, right? So people, I mean, there's another question here. Do we need to go abroad to really train? Maybe yes, right? Because the point is there are some stifling factors, right? Philippine Genome Center could have been, or maybe, I mean, I will not kind of conclude. But to me, when I was there, it was like it is a center to make sure that people understand what we're doing, educate clinicians, educate scientists. It's a hub for people, data scientists, whatever you call it, bioinformatics and everything. Because to me, it's like you have the center. It's already like going to function as it is, right? So funnel funding and focus funding, my personal kind of like assessment, and don't give fragmented funding to like everywhere because they will not produce a substantial or they won't make a dent. And my hope is that people understand that you need money to really bring on these programs, support them, and support and sustain those programs because they will not be as viable as it is, right? So I will tell you the pandemic again is like a good segue to, well, who's leading those teams? There were actually, PGC has Visayas and Mindanao. They were taught how to do sequencing. Then they can pivot in terms of diagnostics. And there's a lot of talent, medtechs and all those other clinicians there too. I will tell you, I went to Visayas and Mindanao too. Visayas, Iloilo. The people there understand what it took for the pandemic, right? So they understand that there's like this sequencing that can be utilized for other diseases, viruses and microbiology. But the point is like, it has to be a programmatic approach. It cannot be a trickling approach and then it will stick somewhere, right? No, it has to be a systematic, programmatic approach. And hopefully we are all PAASE, and practically maybe we could do something. I mean, if we identify priorities and we say to ourselves, this is if it's education, science education, maybe I'm PSI graduate. I know how it is. I mean, I try to help PSI too. I mean, we did the PSI.net. We make sure that we actually are giving opportunities for mentoring and those kind of things, right? But the point is like, who can access those? Just the people who are in PSI, right? So point being that if models actually apply and they are successful, maybe it could be replicated. It could be like redundant and made sure that you actually propagate it. So yes, it's kind of like aspirational, but I don't think it's far from our reach. There is hope. There's something that can be done.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Lacbawan. We also have questions here from our student in CMU. She specifically asked Dr. Uy that so this is her question: coming from a high school with very few lab resources, I struggled to get much on practical experience early on. Dr. Uy mentioned that the challenge really is more on access rather than skills. So we would like to ask for an advice on how students in similar situations make up for limited access and still succeed in chemistry or science career. I can relate. Yeah.
It's also related to the next question.
Yeah.
How can we empower the next generation of Filipino chemists to pursue chemistry given the limitations that we face in our country?
There's a
Okay,
lot of
so
in silico chemistry now. So you don't need a lab.
Yeah,
okay, let's
I agree with Dr. Lacbawan. And actually, our small scale chemistry advocacy helps a lot because they have this very just small kit with all the practical things in there, and even household chemicals. They can they can experience chemistry. They can experience science. So um, and then I believe most of our universities now, well, I can speak of my university, we're open. We're open even to collaborate with our high school teachers, elementary teachers, and we always welcome them. It's almost like every week that we have visitors from different high schools and different elementary schools. So exposing these children, these students to our labs, to what our scientists are doing here, I believe it helps a lot nurturing them to take up science when they go to college. And I agree with Juanfe and Dr. Fe there that we need to aspire. Like in our case here, we do have the lab. Dr. Diana is right. We are limited by funding. So when we acquire our equipment, our universities have to step up for the maintenance. And I'm lucky, just like Dr. Felia said, that my university is very supportive. I have a very supportive system, the university as well as the funding system. So I guess that's one way of crossing the bridge. We do not give up, because if we give up, then nothing will happen. So you have to be persistent. You have to persevere. I started with a 200,000 peso research grant. You can imagine that from the National Research Council of the Philippines. And from there, I I built on my portfolio. So I was able to get millions later. So we need patience and perseverance. So this is an advice to our young scientists, our young educators who want to go to research later on. So it should not stop. It should not stop you from pursuing what you aspire to do.
All right, thank you. Dr. I think we have time for last two questions in the interest of time. I know we have a lot of questions for our women in science, and personally I do too, and you're all very inspiring. um, Um, this is the second to the last one. Are there still biases that exist in STEM, especially in women? How can institutions address them? If there are
You'll
any,
never go away.
they'll never go away.
For me, nakita ko sa question sa slide kanina ni Dr. Aga, like, siya lang yung babae sa picture. So, I did not know how Dr. Aga deal with that. I want to hear her story too. All of their stories about this.
Yeah, so I agree. There's still bias. I just got really lucky that I have supporting male colleagues that were senior than me, and they were actually the one that mentored me. So you have to be lucky that way, but you can also create that situation, right? So I didn't tell you my previous um, experience. This is not my first academic job. I started with another university in University of Nebraska. There it was the opposite. It was a smaller department with more women than male, but actually it was the female were the ones who were not nice. And well, also actually even the male were not nice. So I'll tell you, there is this grant in the US called the National Science Foundation Career Grant. It's a very prestigious grant that is very difficult to get. And in this university where I started, no one has ever gotten it. Then when I came, hindi naman ako, I'm not trying to brag, but when I came, I applied and I got it right away. You would think the university in my department will be proud of me, but they were not. Mga nainggit sila. I was the only Asian. Instead, they say, oh, you just got the grant because you're a female. Oh, you just got the grant because you're a woman of color. It's like, I was fed up and I said, I don't want to work in this environment. I'm not going to put up with this. So I left. And then I came to University of Buffalo, completely different environment, very supportive, and they really uplifted me, the male. So not all male are bad. So there's a lot of good male, right? You just have to be in that situation, and if you don't like the situation, leave.
Leave.
That's
And
my
female, Diana, not just bad male, bad
yes,
female.
female. There's also female that are bad,
Sometimes
right?
the
Like I
females
said,
are more vicious, if you ask me.
there are, and like, yeah, it was amazing because the this department where I was, there were like faculty from really prestigious university, UC Berkeley, UC Berkeley, Princeton, all these big Ivy Leagues. But my university was not in that category. I came from University of Kansas. It's a good university, but it's not Princeton, right? And they were so insulted that I got the career grant and no one else. So they would, when I passed, they would say, huh, poster child. Because I was like, it was just, so you will get this kind of situation. Don't put up with it. Do not put up with it. Leave. That's my, that's my mantra.
And also don't be discouraged and don't think less of yourself. I
Correct.
think the point is you know yourself, you know better what you can do. You don't be arrogant too. I mean, arrogance will just create more problems, right? So point being that you know when to be humble, but you know when to assert, and you know also when to get out. So play your cards.
Well done. Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
It's
How about
exactly what I
Dr.
was thinking.
Uy?
If I may share my experience, I studied in Hiroshima University, a Japanese university, Japan, with male
Oh,
domination.
female,
So you
male.
can imagine my experience. But you know what? I got lucky, just like Dr. Diana said. I got lucky because although I was the only female student under my professor at that time, they were all very gentle with me. I never experienced any discrimination from my Japanese professors and even from my co-students at that time. So I guess luck also plays a lot, right? And then, but of course, because I knew that in Japan females are second-class citizens, I had to work doubly hard. So I had to prove to them that being even being a female, I can do it. And I did. I got my first 5 new compounds in my first 6 months in Hiroshima University. And I guess because of that, I earned the respect of my professor. And until he retired, we were collaborating. And actually, I went back to Hiroshima University last year, before he retired, and I felt that we were already equal. That's what's the beauty with the Japanese culture. Because once, I guess, you prove that yourself to them, then you get their respect.
Let's
And I will double click on what Dr. Ray mentioned. Try to identify your allies because they will be the ones who would watch your back and advocate for you. Right? Because at the end of the day, you will be alone by yourself. But if they know that they can trust you and they know that they can benefit from you, huwag ka naman suck up. Kasi pagka suck up ka, halata yun, di ba? Parang you align yourself with your principles and make sure that it's known. And at the same time, there are a lot of people still who believed in having that principled life. So I guess it's not just luck, but actually it's the choices you make in terms of human relations.
Those are also very good answers. um, I wish we have more time. Dr. Completo, raising your hand.
Raising your hand.
Yes, thank you very much. So finally, bumalik na po ang ilaw dito sa UP Los Baños. Okay, I'm so sorry about
Research.
that. I know. So I was
Sustainable research.
Yes, so that's why yeah, when we move back here in UPLB, yan, this is one of the culture shock for us, for me and my husband, na may brownout. And then yes, but for us, we stayed because we wanted to give back. And then I hope we are really inspiring more young scientists to pursue, not just chemistry, but other fields in science and engineering. So, sorry, I wasn't able to hear all of your talks except for Mylene, yung last part of your talk. So I just have in the spirit of the theme, many voices, one science, right? So how has collaboration across disciplines, cultures, or perspectives shape your research? And what advice would you give young scientists about working beyond their own field? Because I experienced it here in the Philippines. It's so difficult. I was, what do you call that? I was trained as a synthetic chemist. And it's difficult to do that here in the Philippines. So really, we have to go through another training and really be open to learn new and be an expert in other fields. So what advice can you give our young scientists, especially here in the Philippines, about working beyond their own field and collaborate with other researchers? For everybody, please.
Yeah, if I could start. So my field is very interdisciplinary, and I mentioned earlier, I collaborate with epidemiologists, doctors, medical doctors, engineers. Mostly it's because I have the analytical tools, and most disciplines need the tools that we have. But if you're not in that position, you can also expand your area by going through conferences. So I encourage everyone to really take advantage of these opportunities, because that's where you will meet collaborators. Many of my collaborators now, I met them through conferences. Even my very first international collaborator was when I did my postdoc. I was only a graduate student. I gave a presentation as a PhD student, and then this professor from Switzerland approached me, and we started discussing. So in these kinds of meeting, don't be shy. Don't just talk to the same people that you traveled with. Go somewhere. So in fact, wag kayong mag-hangout sa isa't isa. Go and explore to meet new people. That's the purpose of conferences. So yes, collaborations with other disciplines can actually expand your research. But for me, the most important thing is I learn so much from them. So I have learned so many things that I never knew before because of collaborators.
Yes.
How about Fe and
Okay. Um, I will probably give a contrasting experience, right? So, as mentioned by Diana, it's kind of like you open up but be discernful, because not everyone that you talk to would be somebody you could collaborate with. But at the same time, it's more like, I think there's this, I don't know, maybe it's our culture or it's our exposure that we don't trust, we're not very trusting, right? So we're very hospitable, but I don't think we're very trusting. And we don't open up and make sure that that kind of relationship will strengthen. We're very careful too, right? So I think it has it's a double-edged sword, because I myself don't open up right away to people, because to me it's like, oh, why do I need to, right? But at the same time, you learn it as you grow older, that you can trust and you can feel the person himself or herself and figure out how best to really be collaborative, right? The only I will kind of put a disclaimer in the bottom. The Filipinos, I mean, my experience, the Philippines is not ready for that kind of, like, I don't know. Mylene, you can counter my argument, but the point is, like, we always have this thing like, that person left the country, quote unquote, they left us here, and now they're coming to tell us what exactly we need to do. That mentality has been very counterproductive. It stonewalls, right? In the field of medicine, I know a lot, my classmates are there and everything. But the point is, like, one MD told me, Fe, you're still a foreigner, right? So in a way that it's stifling, because it's reality though, that you, and for those people who would want to train abroad, keep your connections. I kept my connections, but it still didn't work. So because I was a faculty in biochemistry, but it's still, bottom line, uh there's a need to align in terms of culture wise. We can be nationalistic and collaborative, but we need to break those barriers. We cannot be projecting our own negative feelings, like, why did I leave the country? Personally, I left the country because there was no training that I wanted there, right? I was the only one who did not train as a resident, and I wanted clinical pathology. So I have to look somewhere, right? So bottom line, we have our reasons and we need to understand why people leave, but we should be open enough to say, admit what we don't know, admit that we cannot do it alone, admit that there's more to gain with more people's mind working together. So I think parang shift. And you younger folks, I think there's, with all this technology, it's easy to connect. It's easy to network. And I actually admire people who have maintained all those connectivities, right? Because that means you're a different generation, you're more understanding, you know, and you're confident that you can contribute something, and therefore you should not be prevented from contributing more.
I agree, Dr. Fen. I'm just lucky that my field, natural products and drug discovery, is really very interdisciplinary. So early on, I have been collaborating not just with our local researchers here in my university and other universities in the Philippines, but also abroad. So I think one thing that we need to bear in mind is that we cannot do it all alone. You know, science is not you cannot do it in isolation. As I have said, we need interconnection. So we need to be open. But then again, as Dr. Fay has said, we need to be open, but we should not be totally open that you know, we might be taken advantage of. So that's one thing. And I also agree with Dr. Diana that one way to really open ourselves up to collaborations is to attend conferences. For me, it's training and seminars in fields related to yours because they open up other windows, other opportunities. Like in my case, I was trained to be a natural products chemist, but when the opportunity came to be trained in molecular biology, I went, and it helped. It helped me build my lab, and it helped me build our research focus, which is on cancer and infectious diseases. So I guess that's one thing that our young scientists can learn.
Can I comment on Al's comment on the chat where the US, its law of abundance more pervasive? It's not true. It's not true. It's like not now, right? I think
Back in
it's
my
far
time, it was.
from
Back in my time,
That time
it was.
we
Sky's the limit.
no, my point is it's actually kind of ironic. There's money in the Philippines. Where to put the money as a priority is something I might be shocked to death by here. But
No, we're very risk averse as investors and business people.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah. Well, true, we're risk averse, but at the same time, priorities are not set properly. I'm sorry. It's not set properly. It's like it's the same researcher or principal investigator over and over, when in fact there's nothing much that has been produced. I'm sorry, I might be stepping on toes, but the point is, this is my observation. There's a lot of money. You need to figure out how best to support what is going to be translatable and applicable, right? Because you cannot be just basic, but at the same time, yes, you can do basic, but there's like a portion of it should be translated and be a product that needs to be helping the Filipinos. I mean, it's easily said than done, but to me, it's like I sat in some of those PCHRD. Sorry, but to me, it's like, oh my God, really? Parang, why do we copy what's published and repeat it in the Philippines, right? We can do something more creative, but layer in what needs to be done in the Philippines. We cannot be just like, oh, yes, there's funding here. We have to like do incidents of whatever. It's like, no, it's like it has to be focused, programmatic, and sustainable.
Agree. Sorry, just trying to get you guys hooked in.
All right.
But
I reacted because it's not true that there's abundance in the US. In fact, no, I will plug in something. With the AI and with all this computer kind of advances, the Philippines should be tapped more, right? Because a lot of resources. But the sad thing is, there's this video that's being circulated on Viber group. We were ahead of the time in terms of all this kind of like customer service, but we're killing ourselves in a way. The industry, the government failed to help those people in that industry to be advanced, right? So now AI, how many AI projects are being fielded in the Philippines? You create the boxes, yung mga training sets, it's pervasive in the Philippines because we're so good at it. Mura pa, dyan, lahat ng data set. Then they bring it to machine learning and AI, right? But we're actually shooting our feet because eventually we will remove those jobs little by little, those call centers, everything else, chatbot and everything. We're kind of like causing the problem and we're eliminating our own jobs. So I was really kind of sad when I saw the video because to me, it's like, there's some sense to this, right? It's like, for how many years we are very good call centers, but what did the government really do to sustain that and way ahead of the time when there's this changes in terms of advances. We did not develop a cadre of people who can actually serve more in an advanced environment and really kind of like perpetuate more of this AI thing that's internal. We're serving the external business.
I agree. Well, I mean, I just found out that we're running actually the Waymo's support in San Francisco of this autopilot taxis. If you read an article with that, and again, that's part of my suspicion with AI. But unfortunately, it's difficult to resist the temptation to be part of it, and the AI engineering and the AI utilization.
It's coming. It's sailed. It's sailed. We have to, not only that, medicine, in medicine, pathology, which is my field. You know that there's digital pathology, right? You need to train sets so that the computer will identify what is cancer, what's not cancer, right? You know who's the best pathologist that they hire? The Filipino pathologist.
They see enough samples. We're trying to do that now on breast cancer using thermolytics for scanning.
And then they're paid well. They're paid well. I'm not like saying that they're not paid well, but the point is like at the end of the day, it's like, why isn't the government trying to create that environment where we actually contribute, but we benefit too? Not like just one-way street where we're kind of like exporting everything in terms of all this knowledge.
We will benefit one way or the other. Either we export.
It will take some time before it circles back.
We export the person eventually. They get jobs and they plow back money back here, as what we've done with the OFW. It's still beneficial. I mean, we've been training thousands of STEM-enabled workforce in the last 3 years under a US aid grant, and most of them leave. But for me, it's okay. At least their families get supported, and their kids will eventually, hopefully, find that, hey, there's money in STEM, and I'll take STEM too, as the kids. So in a way, the necessity of having a livelihood.
But there should be more opportunities, and there's supposed to be sustainable.
And that's exactly what I need to ask, especially for both of you, Diana, as well, in terms of being able to identify potential advancements in technology that would need us Filipinos exposed to the US or abroad that have came back to the Philippines to bridge the gap in order to collaborate. Because that's the one thing that's not yet. With AI, we will be able to do that. Imagine if you have a cadre of chemists already doing your analysis, Diana, the way you've trained them. This time you're focusing on Africa or other countries, doing your analysis for samples, but that's being done by Filipino chemists. The same way, all your trained doctors here that you've met that are going your way or are willing to work with you to be part of that omics surveillance that we were talking about when you were here as part of a disease. Like now, I'm trying to get it off and running on breast cancer. Of course, hypertension and hypercholesterol is the other area where we need to match genomic profiles of our patients to the medicines that they take. So I think there is opportunity, and definitely this is the next step, short of having grad students that become PhDs. But beyond that, even technology utilizers and even startups, because that's where I operate in, having technology companies and ventures that have world-class technology and world-class advisors, like the Balik scientists and the PAASE members and the NAST members, all working towards supporting a technology business in the Philippines. Because that's my problem. Every time I talk, sino ba yumaman sa science? Sino ba yumaman sa engineering? Wala. Hanap kami nagtitignan. Wala kayong makita. Namatay pa si Dado Banataw. So, lalo akong maturo. Wala kayong plano.
Just to cut you there. I don't think monetary or wealth is the most kind of like rewarding point in science, right? To me, right? So yes, the monetary kind of reward is good, But how to use that too is another story.
Yes, well, that's what Steve Jobs just quoted. Essentially, the money that comes into being able to have a spin-off company that has a high valuation allows you to do extremely different, groundbreaking things. And right now, no one in the Philippines, we're all kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel in order to survive, to do good science. And that's not the way science should be. Science should be actually going focus on the real big problems and having the funding and the support behind it. Unfortunately, government, if you're waiting for them to do it, it will take some time. So, but
All right.
I'll say that for another discussion.
I'm so sorry, but I have to, as a moderator, I have to moderate. I know we're all very excited to talk about a lot of things in science here in the Philippines compared to, of course, the experiences of our speakers outside. Um, Really, we can talk about this all day, and there are a lot of questions too in Zoom that we haven't had the time to entertain. This is why I love Women's Breakfast, Global Women's Breakfast, because we really get to hear different perspectives and different reflections from, of course, the women, not just the women in science, but also our colleagues who are working in science. Miss Ellen?
Yes, so thank you everyone for actively engaging in our conversations. We hope our budding scientists gain valuable insights from our speakers and persevere as we need more heroes in science to help our country. Now, we will present the Certificate of Appreciation to our speakers. Now, let me read the citation. Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Dr. Diana Aga for your active participation in Global Women's Breakfast 2026 with the theme Many Voices, One Science, held on February 10, 2026. Signed, Dr. Maria Margaret Opena, President of the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering, Dr. Gladys Cheris G. Completo, Director of the Institute of Chemistry of UPLB, and Dr. Rulito G. Ibalia, the President of Central Mindanao University. Thank you, Dr. Aga. And also,
We'll
same
have-
citation.
Sorry. Can we have a photo of Dr. Aga with her certificate?
Yeah, with the certificate. I'm so sorry. Yes.
Who's gonna take the photo? Sorry.
Is Feb around, or we have the Sabrem technical team to capture the photo with the certificate?
Yes, Ma'am Ellen.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, 1, 2,
1, 2, 3, smile.
Thank you.
Another one. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay na po.
Okay, same certificate of appreciation is presented to Dr. Felicitas Lacbawan. Thank you, Dr. Lacbawan. We will also have a photo opportunity with Dr. Lacbawan. Sabrem technical team.
1, 2, 3, smile. Another one po. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay na po.
And another certificate of appreciation is presented to Dr. Mylene M. Uy. Thank you, Dr. Uy, for your time and for giving a wonderful talk this morning. Yeah, so we will have a short photo opportunity. Supreme technical team.
1, 2, 3, smile. Another one po. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay na po.
Can we have
we
all
now
the speakers open their cameras? We will take a photo po with all the speakers. Also, Miss Dr. Peña, Marjorie Peña, the PAASE president. Can we spotlight Dr. Aga?
Dr. Aga, Dr. Dr.
Gladys.
Uy, Dr. Lacbawan,
Dr.
and Dr. Gladys.
About Dr. Ad Villalobos.
Dr. Ad, yes.
And
Ad Villalobos.
And
Ma'am Ann.
sure. Spotlight.
There.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay po. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Another one. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay na po. Thank you.
How about with the two
Thank you.
moderators, please?
So, yeah, we are asking everyone to turn on their cameras for the group photo opportunity. And then we will just wait for the technical team.
Okay.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Another one. 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Page 3 po. 1,
Page
2.
3.
Page 4.
Oh my
Da-
face.
dami pala.
1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay na po.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Now, before we close, we would like to hear a short response from our reactor, Mr. Ken Bianmar Cabales, an MS Biology student from Central Mindanao University.
Okay. Okay. So, good morning to everyone and a meaningful global women's breakfast to all as we join in celebrating the UN International Day of Women and Girls in Science. After listening to the three talks today, what stayed with me was not only the scientific excellence we witnessed across our three speakers, but the shared narrative of persistence and quiet strength that runs through each story of an empowered woman. Before I speak as a student in science, I want to speak briefly from a more personal place. In search of greener pastures, my father worked abroad for 12 years. But for those same 12 years, it was my mother who raised me. I may not be a woman, I may not have the same experiences as with a woman, but during my formative years, I was raised by a woman, by my mother. And through that experience, I came to believe something deeply. Women shape scientists before science does. Long before I understood what research meant, I already understood discipline, resilience, and responsibility because I saw them practiced daily. These were lessons not taught in classrooms or laboratories, but modeled consistently by a woman whose labor and sacrifice were often quiet yet foundational. Now, listening to today's speakers, I was reminded that many women in science carry this same duality: excellence in their fields and strength shaped by care, sacrifice, and perseverance, often within spaces where recognition does not come easily. Now, women shape scientists by nurturing curiosity before it becomes inquiry, by modeling resilience before it becomes methodology, and by teaching purpose long before publications. Now, Dr. Diana Aga emphasized that being a woman means wearing many hats, not one at a time, but layered on top of one another. Too often, women are told they cannot serve many roles at once, that there are rigid timelines they must follow. That, for example, at a young age, they should have their careers fully figured out, and by middle age, they should just devote themselves solely to motherhood. Yet, time and time again, this notion has been proven wrong. Dr. Aga, together with many women in the sciences, stands as a living testimony that a woman can be a mother, a mentor, and a role model simultaneously. She reminds us that an unbalanced life is not something to be ashamed of or corrected, but a reality to be embraced, one that reflects strength, the depth of strength, and the complexity of women's lived experiences. Now, Dr. Felicitas Lacbawan's narrative in the field of medicine and biochemistry serves as a powerful reminder that in the fields dominated by men, there are women who persist, adapt, and lead across multiple roles and eras as a doctor, scientist, educator, and a servant. Her journey mirrors the last 3 decades of innovation, unwavering commitment to service, education, and national development. In the context of Global Women Breakfast and the UN International Day of Women and Girls in Science, Dr. Lakbawan's story serves both as a celebration and a call to action. It affirms that women belong at every level of scientific innovation, policy, and translation, and that their contributions, whether in national institutions or global platforms, are indispensable. Now, lastly, Dr. Mylene Uy's story beautifully captures the spirit of our celebration, reminding us that science flourishes more when it is inclusive, compassionate, and deeply connected to society. Her journey highlights that excellence in science is not measured solely by discoveries and awards, but by the lives transformed through research, and especially mentorship and community engagement. By anchoring her work in Mindanao's biodiversity and indigenous knowledge, she demonstrated how science becomes more meaningful when it listens to the diverse voices and respects local wisdom. The stories we heard today affirm that there is no single way to be a woman in science. There's no fixed timeline, no prescribed path, and no singular definition of success. What exists instead are lives marked by service, adaptability, and unwavering commitment to both science and society. All these narratives that we heard today challenge us to rethink how we define excellence, not as perfection or balance, but as purpose sustained through complexity. For the women and girls listening today, and for us, everyone, may these stories serve as reassurance and inspiration. Your presence in science is not an exception, it is essential. Your voice matters, your journey matters, and your contributions, whether in research, teaching, leadership, or service, shape the future of science in ways both seen and unseen. And for all of us gathered here today, may this Global Women's Breakfast move us beyond celebration toward action, to build spaces where women are supported, heard, and empowered to thrive at every stage of their scientific journey. Because when women are given the opportunity to lead, science does not merely advance, it becomes more humane, more inclusive, and more transformative. Thank you, and a meaningful celebration of the International Day of Women and Girls in Science to everyone.
Thank you, Ken, for sharing your learnings from all the talks this morning. And to formally close this GWB 2026, let's hear the closing remarks from Dr. Rolito G. Ibalie, the University President of Central Mindanao University.
Good day, everyone. As we bring this Global Women's Breakfast 2026 to a close, I hope everyone leaves today feeling a little more connected, a little more encouraged, and a little more hopeful than when we began. Even without knowing every conversation that took place today, this webinar already reflects our theme, Many Voices, One Science. We come from different places, disciplines, and life journeys, yet we are united by a shared commitment to science and to making it more inclusive and more humane. The Global Women's Breakfast, an annual initiative of the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, reminds us that science grows stronger when diverse voices are heard, when leadership is shared, and when barriers are actively addressed. We sincerely thank our co-organizers, the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering, the UP Institute of Chemistry, and the Central Mindanao University through its Department of Chemistry, the Center for Natural Products Research, Development and Extension, and the Center for Biodiversity Research and Extension in Mindanao for bringing this global conversation closer to home. So as we move forward, may we continue to listen, to support one another, and remember that while our voices are many, our purpose in science remains the same. Thank you, and let us keep the conversation going together. Thank you, and a pleasant day, everyone.
All right, as we come to the close of today's program, we are reminded that science thrives when many voices are heard and valued. On behalf of the organizers, we extend our sincere gratitude to our distinguished speakers, for generously sharing their experiences and insights, and to our participants, of course, for your active engagement.
So this event is hosted by yours truly, Ellen Joy Pandan, a graduate student of the University of Cincinnati and from Central Mindanao University, and Miss Bethel Faith Rizaga, an assistant professor of the Institute of Chemistry, University of the Philippines, Los Baños.
Thank you very much, everyone, and we wish you a meaningful Global Women's Breakfast celebration. Good morning and
good
good night.
morning.
Thank you very
For
much.
our
Both of you.
Good
Thank
job,
you.
MC. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Gladys. Bye,
Yeah.
Mark.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Dr.
Mark.
Oy. Thank you, Dr. Lacbawan. And thank you, Dr. Aga.
Thank
Ay,
you to all.
is there a,
Thank you.
ano yun, tawag dito? Yung...
Can we flash the evaluation form?
Yeah, for all our participants, the link to the evaluation form is here. Thank you for your time. So your certificates will be automatically sent to your email when you fill in this evaluation form. Thank you all for your time, and we hope that today's discussion leaves you inspired to continue nurturing a love for science and service in our own ways. Thank you. Good morning, everyone in the
Good night,
Philippines.
Ellen.
Thank you. Thank you,
Take care,
technical
Ellen.
team. Yeah, wala to mag-assignment.
Well
Thank you,
done.
CMU.
Bye.
Thank you very
Good job,
much.
guys.
Till next year, okay?
Next year ulit.
Oo,
Kita tayo lahat.
Thank you, Anne.
Great
Thank you,
job sa lahat.
everybody. Okay.
Magaling,
That was
magaling.
great. Wonderful. Wonderful and good choices.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you,
always,
Marge.
always
Thank you,
naman
Gladys.
sila.
Magaling,
Lagi
magaling.
naman. That's why
Thank you, Ma'am Gladys. Thank you, Ma'am March. Thank you, Ma'am
Yes,
Anne.
thank you, Bethel.
Bye.
So,
Thanks.
okay, bye
Galing,
na.
galing.
Maraming salamat. Pasensya na at nag-brown out. Ang galing ng timing, ano?
Oo nga.
Nawala ka nga eh.
Nawala ka lang bigla.
Bigla na lang ako nawala. Oh my goodness.
Yung
But
100
yes,
naging 99, si Gladys pala yun.
Bumaba. Dapat
kapalayo.
dapat in-increase pala natin yung number of attendees kasi I
Ito
think
po,
there were more
madam,
than
yes.
100.
Siguro gawin natin yung sa...
100 lang ba yung limit? Ah.
We forgot, hindi natin na-raise. Last time, na-raise natin.
Yeah, we forgot
Kasi
about
alam ko it was over 300 last time or 200.
Pep,
So.
I think
Yes.
we should cut the Facebook Live.
Okay.